Dr. Skipper. So I'm going to read the full bios just because what we're trying to do is get a sense of careers in gerontology, and I think reading the full bio gives you that picture. So Dr. Chivon Mingo is a gerontologist, joined the Gerontology Institute in fall of 2012. In 2003, Dr. Mingo received her BS in psychology from Georgia State. These are both Georgia State alums, by the way. Subsequently, she received an MA in gerontology in 2005, a PhD in aging studies in 2010, both from the University of Florida, South Florida, in Tampa. Dr. Mingo also completed a postdoctoral fellowship in the Institute of Aging at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Dr. Mingo's research interest spans the areas of psychology, health disparities, and aging. Her work is concentrated on identifying reasons for arthritis health disparities and ways to address those disparities through community-based healthcare interventions. The ultimate goal of Dr. Mingo's research is to focus on designing and evaluating culturally appropriate, appealing, and effective interventions for older adults with arthritis. In addition, she uses this research as a template to address disparities in other conditions through community-based healthcare interventions. And Dr. Skipper is a gerontologist. He joined the Gerontology Institute in fall of 2020. He's a native of Atlanta, and Dr. Skipper received his BS in exercise science and his MA in gerontology, both from Georgia State. Following 2 years of service with the Atlanta Housing Authority, Dr. Skipper obtained a master's in education with a specialization in applied research, measurement, and evaluation, and a PhD in social work at Louisiana State University. Prior to joining the Gerontology Institute, Dr. Skipper led initiatives on minority aging and advocacy and as an assistant professor of gerontology at Winston-Salem State University. Dr. Skipper's research involves understanding the role of religion and spirituality in health, behaviors, and well-being of older African Americans. As a member of the American Families Faith Project, he conducts in-depth interviews with enduring African American couples from various religious backgrounds with the goal to understand the religious processes that contribute to marital stability. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mingo and Dr. Skipper.
So we'll begin with a little introductory video here.
One more. Nope, the other way. No, you have to do this backwards.
Yeah, I know. So thank you all, and thinking about this with Dr. Mingo and how we wanted to present this, we really wanted it to be like a conversation and really us chatting, and then welcome you all into the conversation and really just talking a little bit about how we came into gerontology and how we came into gerontological research. And so we present to you Conversations with the Gerontologist. So I'll begin, and the first thing I would like to ask you, y'all can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing that I would really like to ask you, Dr. Mingo, is a lot of people don't understand what gerontology is. A lot of times when you say, hey, I'm a gerontologist, you get the look. So how did well, for one, how would you define gerontology, and how did you learn that gerontology was even an area or come to find it as a discipline?
Great question, so thank you for that, Dr. Skipper. I think one of the things that is really always still extremely fascinating to me is that I have such an intense passion and love for the field of gerontology. There's no doubt in my mind at this moment that this is what I am meant to do, and this is where I can make my greatest contribution. But I can tell you that my introduction to gerontology would make you wonder how that can be. So I was an undergraduate student, definitely trying to find my way. I had a couple of majors, and I had, really decided that I wanted to do something that was related to health. I wanted to do something where I could engage with people, but I was kind of floundering, trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So as a part of that process, as an undergraduate student, I had to get a job. So I decided that I was going to move off campus, and I needed to get a job to help me with those bills. And I ended up working initially for Art and Courts, and then later for Sunrise Senior Living. And as a part of that, I'm going back. I moved off campus, but it still was a dorm style apartment or what have you. And so I was an RA because that was another way to offset the cost for room and board. So I'm coming into my dorm one day, and another RA says, "Oh, why are you always, dressed like that? Where are you going? Do you work at a hospital or something?" And I said, "Oh, no, I work for Sunrise Senior Living." And so he tells me that he's also a student at Georgia State, and he says, "Oh, so do you study gerontology?" I stood there for about
Right.
good 30 seconds, right? And then I said, "I'll tell you if I study it, if you tell me what it is." So that's why I say I'm still extremely fascinated, because I had absolutely no clue that there were endless opportunities in this field that I'm so extremely connected to. But I really just ran into a person who helped me not only find the name of what it was that I loved, but also the institute. It was the Gerontology Center at the time.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so in thinking about that, so one, where is this gentleman today, and have you thanked him for your career?
That's a really good question. I have no idea where he is at this point. I only remember his first name, and I'm sure I thanked him then because I was super excited. I got to meet a lot of awesome and amazing people that I still hold near and dear to my heart. So early on, I'm sure I told him how unbelievably I was excited to find the Gerontology Center. I am also almost 100% positive that I am the cause of a policy change at GSU, because on my transcript it says interdisciplinary minor and undergraduate certificate in gerontology, and now that is not allowed whatsoever, because you are literally taking the same classes. But that's how early on I was in the process and the Gerontology Center, and so I was so overzealous I decided to put both of them on.
Right, why not? Why not? Go for it.
Yeah. So, I want to return this favor a little bit, because I think it's important to hear a little bit about you and how you got here. So can you tell us about gerontology and how you found your way and what you think about gerontology?
Absolutely. So gerontology, again, in a similar vein, I had no idea that it was a thing. No idea that what I was passionate about even had a name. Foremost, just thinking about how I define gerontology, and what I really want to share is that we have to, one thing that I really emphasize is the life course perspective, and understanding that aging doesn't just happen at 65 years old. A lot of times if we wait till 65 years old, then we waited too long and we're missing so much other stuff. And so I really kind of emphasize that life course perspective and thinking about what gerontology is. But my background in kind of finding the field, I had a job, I made amazing money. I was actually in financial sales, but I was extremely unhappy. And so I was just looking for something to do with my time. And so a newspaper came to the house. I don't know if they still even make those. But I had a newspaper, and I'm actually flipping through the classifieds, like ironically, and I'm like, hospice, okay, I remember hospice from my grandmother and stuff like that. I'll be a hospice volunteer. And so I started volunteering with the hospice, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I was fascinated. I sat there, and they would tell me their stories, and it was just amazing. Like, my volunteer experience, I started to value that more than my actual job. I still had no idea that it had a name. Like, I still didn't know what I was doing with gerontology. And then I remember CNN read an ad, and this was many years ago. They read an ad of the top 10 careers to go into in the future, and gerontology was on that list. And so back then, I know everybody uses Google now. Back then, I Yahoo'd it. That's what we used to do back then. So I Yahoo'd it, and I was like, oh, gerontology. And that's when I discovered that it was right up under my nose the whole time, right here at Georgia State. And I reached out to Dr. Burgess and, inquired about the program and applied to the program, and I set the start, got cold feet and put it off a semester. But yeah, the rest is kind of been history, and it's been fun.
And just to piggyback a little bit off of what you said too, I always tell people it's about aging and not the aged. That's
Right.
kind of how I describe it. And I think the other thing too that we may not realize or we may miss is that, oftentimes I say this about high school too, we kind of go through these, very structured curriculum programs, and it leaves very little room for exploration. But I think, some of the things, the activities that my mother had me involved in, the exposure, I can even remember going to do caroling at the local nursing homes in my small town. And so I say it's something about that like planted a seed that literally was, watered and was able to manifest over time. So I tell people to pay attention.
Mama always knows. Mama always knows. So the next thing I want to ask you about is, did you always want to be a researcher, and specifically a gerontology researcher? And if so, what kind of forged that passion, and how did we get to this point?
Yeah, the answer is a no. My mother probably would say that I always wanted to be a researcher because I always asked many questions.
Okay.
However, to articulate that as a career path, no. But I'll be honest, it's because I didn't know that it was not. It wasn't anything that I had exposure doing or had been exposed to, and it wasn't until I became more rooted in gerontology and connected to mentors and people who just really saw a potential in me and gave me various opportunities to try a lot of things. When I left from Georgia State, they did not have the master's program at the time, so I didn't abandon them. It did not exist, so I had to go somewhere else to get my master's. But when I went to the University of South Florida, I went there thinking that I was going to do some work with elder abuse. I had completed an internship with DAS, and I was working in elder rights and advocacy, and so I just knew that that's what I was going to do. And when I got to the University of South Florida, I was just presented with endless opportunities, and I didn't know where they would lead me, but I just tried them out, and that's really how I stumbled not only upon research, but also my research ideas and agenda. So, speaking of research, tell me, Dr. Skipper, a little bit about your interests specifically and what got you there? Like, how do we come up with these ideas?
Okay, so it took me a while, and I still call myself finding myself sometimes. I'll have these identity crises, and I'll reach out to a mentor, like, wait, who am I? Tell me who I am. What do I research? Because I'm about to jump over here and start doing something with adolescents in a minute, and if you don't stop me, I'll be somewhere I'm not supposed to be. So I still have those moments, but for me, I think it's really took a while to realize who I am and to understand that my research really touches on religion, relationships, and health. And it's kind of a two-pronged deal, and it started out with just this real focus on religion and religious coping. And I've told this story, several times. On the picture here, this is my grandmother, who was diagnosed with colon cancer when I was 15. She died when I was 16 of the colon cancer. She was highly religious. We're talking, Southern Louisiana, evangelical. After she passed, we found all of her prescriptions tucked away in her Bible. She trusted that God is going to heal her. I didn't understand it, and at that time I didn't know anything about research, or it was just a question that kind of stuck with me and nagged me for a very, very long time. And so that really contributed to my interest in understanding how religion contributes to the health decisions of older African Americans, because I know that, growing up in for a little bit in Louisiana and Mississippi, I knew that African Americans were highly religious. And so that's really how I got into that. I went to LSU knowing that I was going to focus on religion and health. I had everything laid out, and I met a gentleman there, Dr. Lauren Marks, who told me that he'd been interviewing, strong African American couples. He said, "Hey, Skip, you should take a look at this stuff. I think it's good stuff. I think there's some opportunity there." I read through like 1,000 pages of transcribed data in like a weekend, and he was like, "Seriously?" I was like, yeah, it was fascinating. And so that's how I really got into wanting to learn more about enduring African American marriages. And so now those things kind of mesh, but my research pretty much always touches on either religion, relationships, or health, or all three.
Interesting. When you were talking to that, I was thinking, and I guess the previous picture was actually my mentor, Bill Haley. And, he is actually a caregiver researcher. He does, work with dementia. But one thing I really appreciated about working with him is exactly what I said. He would let me ask endless questions, and pair me with other faculty just to get the experience that I wanted and I needed. And I go back to what you asked me first about, did I know that I wanted to be a researcher? And not only did I not know that, as I was finding it out, I also was learning what type of researcher I wanted to be. So as a part of that experience, I was a research assistant on an NIH grant, but it was an NIH grant that allowed us to go out into the community. So I went into various homes of older adults who were dealing with a specific chronic condition. We specifically focused on arthritis. And it was interesting because in the conversation, although we were collecting information where it was a survey and we collected data, so it wasn't intentionally qualitative. But the conversations helped me to consider what I now know and can articulate as future research questions. So I'd run into African Americans, older African Americans, who were dealing with, and I say dealing with because I think they assume they were managed. But I say dealing with because the level of stress, the level of disability, the level of depression, I was blown away. But in reading, so I didn't have transcripts, but they definitely gave me a lot of journal articles. And so in reading these many journal articles that were consistently being thrown at me for me to figure it out, that, he didn't answer my questions. He sent me to find answers to my questions. So when in doing that, I realized that none of them really answered my question. And that was this one particular chronic condition, arthritis. African Americans didn't have higher prevalence rates. It was debatable. And so yet they were experiencing more pain, more functional impairment, more disability. And so I really sought out to say, what is the difference between this experience and that of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, some of these other chronic conditions? What is it about arthritis that it's not that they have more of it, so what is it? And that's when I really learned that social and cultural and psychological factors influence your health. And it was something about these additional factors outside of the biological factors that was explaining it, and I was capturing that in those conversations of those homes when I get to sit in each order.
So bouncing off of that, like, would you say there is an ideal time to get involved in research as a student? And then how do you kind of get plugged into the whole gerontological research network?
Great question. It's never too late. That's what I don't know if it's an ideal time, but it's never too late. So this was, he is, as in he's still, but he's no longer the director, but this, at the time that I was a student, was the director of the Gerontology Center, now Gerontology Institute. And so he too allowed me just to ask the craziest questions and try to figure out and find my way. At this point, I wasn't directly, pushed to do research. But what I can say is these individuals never left my life. And so as I started to have more questions, they helped me figure out and find opportunities. So this is a picture when I attended a student mentoring conference, similar to the conference that we just had here today. And so they would say, just try it. What's something that you're interested in? Let's work on a literature review. Let's, see what's out there. Find out the information and kind of see where this leads you and if you come up with more questions. So it was little small projects. Sometimes we were given paper assignments. When I started at University of South Florida, I actually did a small research project where I surveyed undergraduate students. And I still I don't know how I feel about this because I don't know if this is a pro or a con, but I still think to date that is my most highly cited paper, and it is in an extremely high impact rheumatology journal. And I was a master's student. Now, I don't know what that says about what happened to me after that, if I'm resting on some laurels or something, but you just never know. And then after that, another opportunity was presented where the Arthritis Foundation said, hey, can you do that again? But we want to know the perceptions and opinions of older adults. So it's never necessarily an ideal time, but it's never too late. And the best way to do it is talk to the people around you, ask questions, and they'll help you and direct you in the path to get those answers. So I got some questions for you as well. So a lot of students think that research is difficult, right? And some even try to avoid it. Like if you say anything about a research project, a research thesis, sometimes they say, oh, is there something else? Can I do something else? So did you have a similar view as a student, or you kind of, did you think that it was something that was boring or something that you weren't interested in? And if so, something you were afraid of, maybe that you weren't equipped to do? I know some students, have expressed that.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that. And if so, how'd you get over it?
Okay. So a lot like you, I was an extremely inquisitive kid. Like, I just asked every question. It was always why. And mothers know, like, the answer to a question, the why, is because I said so. So I was often told because I said so, and that answer just didn't satisfy me. And so that was really, I was doing research and trying to find out why. As a kid, I didn't realize I was doing research. So it wasn't until later that I realized that, and sitting down and talking with older adults from hospice, and sitting down and talking with, those that are in a medical facility and using religion to determine their decisions, or talking to and enduring African-American couples, like, these oral histories are research, like, this is research. And so that was really kind of the breaking point for me. And even when I talk to students, it's, are you someone that has a lot of questions? You would be a perfect researcher, and I know many of them are timid about research. There are a lot of big words. Most of them I really don't even know, especially once we talk about qualitative research. Like, there's a lot of big words. And so I think it's just realizing that research isn't such a big thing that you can't, move towards. I think in life, oftentimes we look at the end goal, right? And research is the same thing. We look at the end goal instead of looking at the next step. Just take the next step. Like, that's it. It's right there in front of you, right? Just take the next step. And then after that, just take the next step. And before you know it, you're at the goal. And so I think that's what research is, and just doing the next thing. So yeah, but to kind of shift that and really offer some advice, I want to kind of close us out here and ask one last question of you. Like, what advice would you offer to students interested in gerontological research?
I'm gonna make this quick. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to mess it up. Don't be afraid to ask a hard question. Don't be afraid to ruffle some feathers a little bit. In light of Black History Month, I've just kind of been reflecting on a number of things. And also, I recently lost my 102-year-old grandfather, who I think the world of, and I don't think I could have gotten here without the many lessons that he taught me. Right? Take all of that with you. Take everything. Maya Angelou calls it the rainbows in her cloud. Right? Take all of those pieces with you, and chart your own journey. You don't have to be anybody else. We always say that we're like nieces and nephews and daughters of our mentors along the way. But you don't have to be a clone. It's okay. And it's okay to push back. It's okay to ask questions. And it's okay to not know. In fact, that's the beauty of research. I think it took me a long time to realize that, but that's the part I love most. I cannot know something. And so I'll just give this example really quickly, and that is, I said in light of Black History Month and the reflection, we talk a lot about dementia and understanding what it is and Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's Alzheimer's. And it took a very courageous gerontologist, Mary Kaplan out of the University of South Florida. She wrote a text and she gave it to me because I was a student there, and I was blown away when I learned about Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller, who actually was an individual who really charted the path on what we know about Alzheimer's disease, but yet he's rarely discussed, right? He also published in a medical journal, I think it was like 6 months prior to Alzheimer's Alzheimer's. Don't be afraid to research, uncover, ruffle feathers, and chart your own path.
Amazing advice. Amazing advice.
So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, because I know you have some great wisdom to share.
So, for me, it's similar, and the advice that I would give to students is, identify those amazing mentors. I think we have a room full of amazing mentors right here. And many times you're going to interact with people, and you don't even know how influential they will be until 10 or 15 years later. And you'll look back and that person changed my life. I'm a person that truly believes that everything happens for a reason. Everything has its purpose. And there's a lesson in everything. But in the end, it all turns out in the way that it was supposed to go. And so I think just kind of, talking with folks, networking, having amazing mentors, similar to you. Like I have an academic grandmother. This is Dr. Lauren Marks. He's my academic dad. When I'm out with him, I'll, say, yeah, this is my dad. Skip, you are aware I'm a white Mormon, right? And I'm like, it doesn't matter, you're my dad. So I have amazing mentors and just an amazing circle of people that are supporting. And that's so very important in conducting research and just realizing that you're not alone. Like you have support, you have people that are there for you. And yeah, that would be my one piece of advice that really comes to mind.
And as we conclude, I also want to make sure that I acknowledge, because this individual really had a mark on many gerontology students at Georgia State University. And so what I want to say before I say her name is, don't underestimate the mentorship you can get from people at various roles. It doesn't have to be, the top researcher or somebody who is, we say academic famous. You get there and you're like a groupie for somebody you've been reading about.
I've done it several times.
Right, me too, right? But it's that unlikely hero. And for me, her name was Mary McKinnon. And she organized internships. She would have you come to her office and ask you what your interests are. She would just engage and talk to you and really get to know who you were. And she was a champion for the field. Now, if you go and you look, and many people may not know who she is, who she was. However, the Gerontology Center, the now Gerontology Institute, the alumni are who they are because of the impact that she had. And she cared about helping students answer those questions and finding the right place and right spot. So don't ignore the silent hero while you're chasing, the popular person or individual that you think may be the way. You could be the person. Yeah, I think we might have, maybe we could take, I guess much time.
You got easily 15 minutes.
Perfect, yes.
Oh, yeah, you got lots of time.
Yeah, we were
Tell us more of your
like,
stories.
we were like wrapping it up. So yeah, we can open it up. I think we can open it up for questions. If it's something that we haven't shared that we want to know about, more about our research experiences, our time at Georgia State, other places, other institutions. The other thing too, I think I would say is also, I don't know, I think mentorship comes in various ways, right? I think we need to get away from thinking about there's one person that needs to be our mentor. You can have a mentor in different areas of your journey. And so don't be afraid to kind of research and figure out, who those individuals are. Get advice about how to do that. I actually have a mentor who is a mentor who connects people to mentors. Like, he doesn't really mentor us, but he's going to tell us who to talk to and who to connect with, who can assist us on that, that next journey. Well, that's a very valuable resource, because without that, I might not know that next person. So, just be open. So we're going to open the floor, and if there are additional, questions, comments, thoughts.
I think along those lines, real quick, before we get into questions, I think along those lines, one thing that's been really influential for me is having a mentor that's at the next step, like one step up. Someone that's almost the same age, but they're just one step. So I know what the next step looks like. Like, it's great to have mentors that are extremely accomplished and all of that. But many times, once they get to that stage, they'll have like several mentors. But having someone that is just one step ahead and that can get you from where you are to that next step, that has been huge for me. It's just having that.
Now you make me want to piggyback on that too, because I want to say, get you a peer mentor.
Chivon is, Dr. Mingo is the person, like, who I'm talking about. The person that's the next step up, like, Dr. Mingo, what do I need to do?
Well, you know what?
Another identity crisis.
This is what I'm going to say about that. Is that I read a book once by John Maxwell. He talks about the 360-degree leader. And it's really about the person who can be influential no matter where they are. So even somebody who is parallel or may be, as you described, a step under your journey. And that just means they might be later in charting that path or a similar path. But it also can be so insightful to talk to someone with new energy, talk to someone with new ideas, but also a peer mentor. There is nothing like a peer mentor, like a good friend who you all can, bounce ideas off of each other. You can talk to them. You don't feel intimidated. You don't feel scared to like present your idea that you feel it sounds great when you say it at home, but then you think, probably not gonna sound so great when I tell my academic mentor. They're gonna be like, no, that's your fifth idea. Please graduate, please. But the person who can kind of help crystallize and think about how to navigate the journey. I would also say that's individuals who can help you. What do I want to say? Build your network. So I will say this, because I think this is actually really important. My very first aging conference was at USF. It was an aging exchange day, similar to this. But then right after that, I took the same poster and went to the student mentoring conference. And Tybee Island, the individuals that I made friends with those many, many years ago, they're my colleagues, they're my friends, they're my network. Now we're on editorial boards together. We didn't even know how to spell certain words. Probably editorial was probably one of them. So it's interesting that now it's like, I say now they're my squad, right? So we've kind of grown up together. And so now it's so fun because we were gerontology kids together and now we're gerontology adults together in the field and charting these careers. And it opens the door for opportunities. And so I think that's another way. Don't lose your friends. Keep your network. Keep your peers.
All right. Questions? Anybody?
What do you look for, or what would you look for in a potential mentee or someone who you think would be a good researcher in the future?
Can you repeat the question? Just to make sure?
Sure. So the question was, what does a mentor look for in a mentee, and what would be a good fit? I'll go first.
Yeah, I can try and answer that. So for me, I think a lot of it is realizing who I was, right? Like I came to the table with probably very few skills. I don't think Dr. Becky Ellis is here, but she would tell you I couldn't do much as a master's student. So I think a lot of that is realizing who I was. So the most important thing for me in identifying a mentee is who it is that you want to be. And you don't have to know that, right? That's what I'm going to help you to find. Another thing that I think is really important in a mentee is it's natural to be resistant in many areas, but if you allow someone to push you, because many times your mentor knows, like, okay, this is probably what's best for you. And Dr. Ellis did that for me. Like, I graduated and she said, yes, Skipper, you're going to publish this paper. Dr. Ellis, I graduated already. I turned that paper in. That was my thesis. We don't have to worry about that anymore. But I was willing to allow her to push me outside of my comfort level. And it bloomed into, my career, and I really saw that, okay, I can actually publish what I write. And so I think it's important to as a mentee, to, be willing to go outside of your comfort level and work with things.
I would say that question is one that goes both ways. I think fit isn't about one way, right? It isn't about, obviously there are skill sets and work ethics that can make one a good mentee. But I think it's something to connection also. I think it's something to being honest with your potential mentor, having conversations about what you want to do, your insecurities, feeling that you can be honest with that individual and, have integrity. I think for me, I've had excellent mentors, and some of them I've been more afraid of than others. But I think what really played a key role in my development was that I was to a place where I know and I knew that I could trust them, right? I could trust them with my journey. Right now, if I called Dr. Bill Haley, he would answer my questions, find a way to help me and support me. If I call, Dr. Jessica McElvain, Dr. Tamara Baker, if I call them right now, I can just be completely, candid, whether it's something that's difficult, whether it's a challenge, whether it's a barrier. And for me, that was something important. I needed the type of mentorship that I also had a connection. Will you know that at first? No, I was terrified of Dr. Haley, and when I graduated, he told me I can call him Bill, and I'm still struggling with that right now. And so it's just, I just had that, like, it was a level of respect, but it also, I was a little bit intimidated. But he allowed me to be honest about what I didn't know, so that he could help me find ways to staff or fill those weaknesses. You also want somebody who's gonna be honest. He was supportive, but he didn't just like, blow smoke up my sleeves, I guess that's the thing. Something like that, but he didn't give me a false security. In fact, it was a little weird because he had this blue pen, and all of his mentees were like, oh, we just want to hide the pen. We just want to get rid of the pen. Because he would literally use that blue pen and just totally destroy our best work. We just knew that was the final draft.
Right.
But somehow it would come back with all the smart part. But years later, I nominated him for a mentor award. Because at the bottom of each one of those documents, with all of that markup, it would say, full steam ahead. I was defeated while I was reading it, but when I would get to the bottom,
Right.
it would be just what I needed. Everybody doesn't need that. Everybody doesn't need the same thing.
Yeah.
And so also thinking about what's a good fit for you as well.
Yeah, and I would say take ownership of being a mentee. I told Dr. Marks, I'm meeting you every Monday at noon. I graduated, I was finished with school, I got my PhD, and I still told Dr. Marks, I'm calling you every Monday at noon. And I did that for a year, every Monday at noon. And even if I didn't have anything to share, I'm gonna be sitting in front of you Monday at noon. You can guarantee I'm here. So I think it's important to take ownership of being a mentee and tell that person what it is that you need in order to be successful. And finally, after a year, Dr. Marks was like, Skip, I gotta let you fly on your own. I call you every other Monday at noon. Yeah, I think that's important.
It's like a breakup. Did you cry? I cried. He was like, he didn't want to write any more papers with me. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to write any more papers with me? And it wasn't that he didn't want to, but he wanted me to start finding other collaborators and really branching out. But it was like a breakup. Other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So they gave the best job of the whole conference to me. I don't know why, but I'm excited about it. So I get to announce the awardees. And Dr. Calhoun's going to announce the last awardee, but we have 3 categories: undergraduate research, graduate research, and neuroimaging. All right? And so the runner-up in the Best Undergraduate Presentation in Aging Research Award goes to Emily Price. Thanks, guys. Can we get them right afterwards? We'll get all of them together?
Oh, there you go, that's it.
The second award goes to the Best Undergraduate Research Presentation Overall in Aging Research, Sagarika Ramakrishnan. Congratulations. Yay. Okay, so in the graduate category, we have a tie. And 2 bests. We have the first best and the second best, but they're both best. They're no different. Best Graduate Student Research in Aging Award goes to Kelly Roots Murdy. Thank you. Excellent. And the second best, but also the best, Graduate Student Research in Aging Award goes to Kirsten Magda. All right, Dr. Calhoun, it's your turn.
Okay. Oh, well, so I'm Vince Calhoun, and I'm really excited about this aging workshop. And sorry I wasn't able to be here for most of it today, but I'm glad I could just be here for this little bit. And so I lead a center that does neuroimaging research, and we're doing a lot of sort of ongoing work relevant to aging, relevant to lifespan studies, and the like. And we also have this new program from the NSF called the Dynamic Mapping Across the Lifespan. It's called a CREST Center, and it's focused on, again, sort of training and giving opportunities for folks to do research in this area. And so we're right now kind of building that up and very excited about it. And so we're going to double this up because I'm going to announce the announcer of this award,
Oh,
which is Jean Liu, Dr. Liu, she's been doing a lot of lifespan studies and the like, so she is very well qualified to announce this award. And it's great to see you all, and if you have any questions about any of it, learning more about the kinds of things that we're doing, just reach out and we'll get you connected. So, okay, Jean, I'll let you take it away. Don't spill.
Okay, the best neuroscience in aging research. To present who our winner is Chivon Mingo and
Congratulations.
Thank you.
well, I hate to end it. That really was a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for spending it with us. I hope you learned a lot from our very distinguished and wonderful speakers. I think they're absolutely fabulous. I'm slightly biased, but I think they're really fabulous. I just wanted to say thanks for coming. There's Gerontology Institute faculty here. We'd all be happy to talk to you. Dr. Kemp is here. I'm here. Grace is here. Dr. DeRosa is in the corner. And you met these two. We'd all be happy to talk to you for a little bit afterwards if you're interested. And I just want to say thank you to the judges and thank you to the organizing committee. You all did a wonderful job. It's a fantastic event, and I'm just awfully grateful to be a part of it. So hopefully we'll have another one next year. Stay tuned and ask others to come along with you next time. Thank you. Yes, can we get the awardees to come up to the front so we can get pictures? Maybe we'll-
Yeah.